Hey guys, this is my midday recap. I walked away for a couple hours. I did all my trades before 11 o'clock and did okay today. I have a slight loss for the week. I think it's under $700 for the week. And considering the volatility in these markets, I'm perfectly happy. And the fact that I try to do day trades and I don't try to take the bigger overnight trends. So, anytime that, that situation, I'm happy to break even for the week or awful close to it. Um, and I'm just trying to find those trades that have the momentum to the upside or the downside. But the chop, I could tell earlier on this morning, I felt like it was going to be a chop day at the beginning. So basically, what I was watching here is this trend line. Uh, Very critical trend line we came down to today. And yes, I do think next week we will break down below it. But as of today, there are some short. It's a short squeeze happening here in the Qs, and despite the fact of this major rally and everything so far, the highest point to do business is right on that trend line today, and there's really nothing else, no other value points close to that. So this is a responsive short squeeze. So don't be careful. This is a bull trap setting up here for the week going into next week. So just keep that in mind going forward. Buyers and sellers were perfectly happy uh, trading this morning on the trend line. So something to keep carry forward into your trading uh, uh, in the future. Okay, and where that trend line comes from, you see this long-term consolidation zone. That's that trend line right there. And yes, we're trading above it right now. So just something to keep in mind here. Yes, the Qs are catching a little bit of a short squeeze, but buyers and sellers came in right here on that trend line today. Is that a significant bottom in this sell-off? That could very well be. I mean, that could be the bottom for the sell-off. So it's hard to say. Just something to keep in mind carrying forward here in your trading. Okay, some things that I'm looking at today. Well, we'll start with my scans real quick. No, I'll start with my trades. My first trade of the day was Facebook. It had an upgrade this morning. I got it right near the open. Spreads were really wide. Um, I was able to take it for a really decent little profit here in the morning hours right off the bat. And I sold early because of all the volatility in the markets. We were trading below that trend line, so doing a contrarian trade, knowing that we were running into a significant resistance area, I wasn't really pushing my longs this morning. And so that was my first trade. And then my second trade was Microsoft, and I managed to eke out a little bit of gains on it. I was catching it a little bit late, and I carried it up to the trend line. Made about $150 on the trade, and before the market started selling off again below that trend line, and it brought all the stocks down with it. And it is really amazing that we're catching a nice little short squeeze here in the markets. So keep in mind, look at this, the highest point to do business. That was near towards the day lows here on Microsoft even. So a lot of these stocks are pushing up on a short squeeze, which they could very easily going into the weekend just completely by the close, just blow it right back in our faces. So I don't know what's going to happen, but that's just something to keep in mind going forward here. Okay. I think my third trade was QQQ. I went and got the puts earlier, and no, I got the calls. That's right. We came back up here, and I did a contrarian trade. We had gotten above our trend line, and I thought we might be taking off to the moon, and it came back in my face, and it didn't take but a few minutes because the spreads were so wide that it just completely. I was trying to get out of the trade, and I couldn't get filled, and this trade alone cost me $1,000 before I could actually exit out of the trade. Um, it was amazing how fast the slide happened, and the spreads being wide and everything made it look really difficult to do that trade. Um, excuse me. So I'm telling you the good stuff and the bad stuff. Generally speaking, I prefer trading when the spreads are wider because you have a far smaller range you need to the stock needs to move in, and you can actually get an extra third, extra 40% potential gain if you time and price your buy-in at the right price points on the wider spreads. So just keep that in mind. I mean, a lot of people don't like doing wide spreads on a day like today, but I actually tend to thrive in this environment for my trading. Okay. Baba, I did it 2 times with puts. It was called out by Mark pre-market. I saw it appear earlier, and I saw the markets showing signs of weakness. So I took that trade for a nice little scalp, and I just made it pretty simple. Once I put my trade in, I just put a 50 cent stop above where I bought in, and so I knocked out $500 for quick and simple math. You know, you make a 50 cent gain in the option for 10 contracts, you're going to make $500. So real quick $500 there. And then once I saw it cracking back below the VWAP the second time, I actually took it for another $500 on that one. So it was pretty nice. 2 nice little trades on Alibaba. And then I did a contrarian trade. I wasn't confident that this market was ready to take off, and we were just kind of hovering around that line, or we just finally poked above that line on the Qs, and so this right through here, I had bought puts on Nvidia, and it had that little drop right there. So that was my best trade of the day. I made $800 on that little bitty move there on Nvidia. So I was really happy on that move, and you can see the easy money would have been to the upside, but it wasn't until a little bit later in the session that things really looked clear that things were going to be going a-okay. Apple's another one in between all there. I did a trade. Basically, I took the overnight and I was way underwater to start the morning, and so what I did. Let me see here. 5 minutes. No, 5 minutes. No, there you go. All right. Okay. This morning, for the VWAP, I actually I bought a better positioning, a different strike on the calls. So I managed to make some, and I had a 3 times the size for what I had my overnight. So I managed to actually make money on Apple despite I was opening up with a $1,400 loss on Apple. And instead of having a loss for the day, I actually turned it into a profit, even though I actually closed right here, the 270 area. So I didn't even try to push for the final moves here in Apple. I mean, so with those spreads being wide, you could really knock in some pretty good money today. So on my scans today, so on the call side, we got Microsoft really starting to take off. One of the top movers on the Nasdaq, and then our semiconductors are really shining today. So that is a sign that we might have a significant bottom in the market, seeing as our semis are catching some responsive buying here, and they were the driving force all the way to the upside. So just keep that in mind. I still think that it's more of a short squeeze we're seeing right now, and by the end of session, I am still leaning that they are going to sell it off into the end of session. But we'll see. Seeing the semis, we'll see how well the semis can hold up here going into the close, and see if we have to reassess that thing. Nasdaq puts this morning, they've really come off from their gains, but we still have Adobe not really participating in this move. Amazon's really not participating in the move up. So those are 2 of the ones that are still really showing relative weakness today. Amazon was up considerably higher earlier in the session, so something to keep in mind. And if we look at our S&Ps now, S&P 500 scan, and if you notice, I have changed my scan. The criteria is down. We are getting below average volume on most of this stuff, and so I had to completely do away with my above average volume thing just so I could get some scans to pump out on my, and I also changed my volume scans and my minimum daily volume scans for these my scans to actually show up. So that even says more about this being a short squeeze, which might be legitimate and it might not. So just keep that in mind going forward here in the markets. Yeah, it took forever for this load. The S&P 500 scan. We still have Microsoft at the top of the board, AMD, Micron. NVIDIA is not even showing up, and NVIDIA was the one earlier in the day was showing up the most. But it's having a very good day today, too. Actually, we're actually getting, okay, really not very good percent gains other than that on the call side. I mean, it's just the semiconductors and the Microsoft really outperforming here this morning. And then on the we have Adobe, Amazon. This is showing up on the same scan, it looks like. So just keep that in mind going forward here. This is kind of what's going to happen in next week probably, especially if this short squeeze fails. But it's hard to say if it will or not. I mean, you know, if you get buyers, you get buyers. I just still the short squeeze is a little bit more supportive here on the S&Ps. We do have, they are trying to, volume is coming in at higher prices. It's not like the Nasdaq, so we have relative weakness with the Qs versus the S&Ps, in my opinion, based on volume profile. So just keep that in mind going forward here. That if this is a real thing, a real correction in the markets, the Qs really do seem are showing some signs of relative weakness in the early market hours. They were showing more relative weakness versus the S&P going into this session. So keep that in mind going forward. We're already looks like we're going to start rolling over here. I really think that's what's going to happen for the close. Thanks a lot. Like the video if you like it, and please make comments and stuff down below. I appreciate it for your feedback and stuff. I didn't get rich today, but I did manage to regain some of my losses for the week, and I'll just reload them next week and not let it be toxic to think that I lost a week. You know, losing a week is not a big deal. It's just you got to trade your plan and stick to it, and it really does look like S&Ps are ready to break. So I think I'm pretty well calling it here. So okay, I will see you later.